Time. I'm just going to welcome everybody for joining us this evening. Thank you so much for your patience. My name is Bethany Pearson. I am the program and volunteer coordinator for the Everett Roehl Marshfield Public Library, and I am going to be here just kind of keeping an eye on things, available to help with any questions or any issues that we might have. But I am going to hand everything over to Vicki, our presenter for the evening, because she is perfectly capable of doing so.
Well, thank you, Bethany, and thank you, Everett Roehl Marshfield Public Library, for having us tonight. This is, as Bethany said, part 2 in History Lost, Marshfield's automotive businesses. And for those of you that were able to join us last month, we talked about a lot of the automotive businesses whose buildings are lost. And because there are so many businesses in the automotive industry here in Marshfield, whether it be the gas stations, the repair shops, the used dealerships, the new dealerships, there are so many businesses to deal with that we did have to split it up. And for those of you that were with us last month and watched, you did realize, and I apologize for getting a little long-winded. Tonight, we're hopefully going to be a little bit shorter. I'm a little bit more organized. So tonight, we're going to be talking about, instead of the buildings that are lost, we're going to be talking about the buildings that are still there and that have probably changed over time. So let's get started. And as I said, we're going to be talking about changed buildings. Well, first of all, this is not necessarily a changed building, but it is a building that the business has changed. V&H used to be down on the south side of town, and now they are up on the north side. This happens to be their building from 2002. And again, as you can see, a couple more dealerships that they've accumulated, but the building itself is pretty much still in the same spot. Also up on the north side, we have the Baltic Bread and Butter Shop. It is not the Baltic Bread and Butter Shop anymore. And it is now taken on a new look with the BP brand on it. As we start going down Central Avenue a little bit farther, we come across back in 1964 a business called Bauman Buick. Bauman Buick, this particular building has taken on different owners. We're going to talk just about a few of those. Here we have Gross Motors taking it over. This was a picture taken in about 2002 with Gross Motors or Gross Buick. And again, in 2016, Gross is still there, but you can see that the original building, even though it is still there, has been pretty much covered up with a lot of new building around it. And this is what it looks like today. Again, as we come down Central Avenue from the north, we're down to 900 North Central. This is back from 1978 in a business called the North Central Service. Now, that has taken on a little bit different look. Here we have that same station in 2002. It's now the American Tire and Exhaust and Car Wash. And then again, American Tire and Exhaust is still there, but again, they've kind of cleaned up their building and everything looks a little shinier and a little newer. And that's one of the things we like to see as we progress in time. Again, coming down from the north, we're now down to 508 North Central Avenue, and we're at a place called Boulevard Motor Company. This picture was taken back in the early 1960s. The business actually opened September 1924 with the Wripper Brothers. We have 3 brothers, James, George, and John. George and John sold out to James in 1941, and between 1941 and 42. And then Weber has occupied this building since the company formed. James Weber moved his facilities and Chrysler Plymouth franchise to a new structure at 701 North Central Avenue in 1965. And that building I did show you in part 1. Okay, we're still looking at that same location. Crown Old's Cadillac has now taken it over. We are in 1965. Notice there is one bay actually 2 bays, one over on the right-hand side and one on the left of the main building. And off on the side, you can see their used car lot with some more bays for the used cars. We are still calling this Crown Old's Cadillac, but you'll notice that even in the parking lot, it's called Crown Value Rated. So again, it was their branding for their used cars. As time goes on, we're still at that same location in mid-1960s. Isn't that a cool car? We're looking again at the 508 North Central, Crown Olds, and a couple of the different pictures, different views from around the location, again in the late 1960s. Here we have 1974. By that time, or at this time, it was owned by Gene Bender, actually, and he had taken it over in 1968 until he passed away in 1980. And at that point, his wife, Joan, took over ownership. And then when she decided to retire in 1989, their daughter took it over, Danielle, and continued running it until they sold the building to Newville in 1993. And here we have Newville. It was purchased from Crown Olds, March 22nd. Newville sold their building to Wheelers, November of 1994. And then several years later, David and Diane Roop purchased the building. And since that time, it has not been in the car business. Today, we're looking at the south side of the building, which would have been their showroom area, I believe. For a short period of time after David and Diane took it over, they constructed the floor of the showroom, and it was a kids' corner, in other words, a children's retail store. And Kids Corner closed in 2003. We're going to take just a quick look over on the north side because there's a lot of other businesses that have come in there, Vital Communication being one of them. But it's almost like a strip mall with, I think, room for probably 3 or 4 businesses just on the north side alone. Okay, now we're going to be getting up into the business part of town or the downtown area. We are at 101 North Central Avenue, and this is in the 1980s. Now, I know you're looking at this picture and you're wondering, why is she showing us this picture? It's a picture of a bar and a bakery and a couple other businesses. Well, this is a prime example of progression from what it was to something new. And we always talk about, you know, things have to change and get modern. Well, this whole block of buildings was taken down for Quick Trip, which came in November of 2004. Actually, Quick Trip, if you remember from my presentation last month, was actually across the street. And then they built this new building and moved into it. As I said, 2004, it has expanded, and this is what it looks like from across the intersection today. A lot more gas pumps, it's kind of expanded. Car wash is all built up and everything, so they are doing quite well. As we travel down Central Avenue, we're going to go off on one of the side streets. This happens to be on East 2nd. It had several different addresses, anywhere between 111, 109 East 2nd. And as you can see this by the caption that's there, this is a 1919 photograph. You'll see that the Elks was on one side, the Eagles on the other side, and that building that's stuck right in the middle is the Louis Flanning Truck Company. And what's unique about it, on the floor over the Flanning Company was a roller skating rink. So up on that second floor, there was, yes, a roller skating rink. And you can see, if you're into history of Marshfield, you can see a portion of the Adler Opera House way on the far left. And that was one of the places here in town that a lot of the big names from vaudeville did frequent, and as they passed through town. So here we're looking at the Flanning Truck Company. This building has changed a lot over time. Okay, here we are, probably in like the late 1910s, early 1920s. The red arrow is pointing to that building yet. You can see that in the center of the building, there is still the bay for driving cars into the building. You can see the Elks on one side, the Eagles on the other. And this was from actually 1921 City Directory, the ad that's on the left-hand side. It was the Blodgett Buick Motor Company at that point in time. Another picture a little while later, 1931. We have the Laselle Brothers, and they are selling it to Buick's Auto Inn. It was also known for a short period of time in the 1940s as F&S Garage. It was also Stengel Motors sometime around January of 1949. But by May of 1949, Chet and L. Heydrich purchased, and it became Heydrich Brothers Garage. But again, as you can see, the red arrow pointing down, we're looking at that building. The building that's immediately in the front was our old City Hall and Towers, which housed the library, which was the little shorter building in front. And then all of the city offices, our police department and our fire department was also in that building as well. Here we have it when it was Heydrich's Hudson Sales Corporation, about 1953. And again, as I said, it was owned by Chester and Al Heydrich, formerly Stengel Motors, because that's who they had bought it from. Noticing that from time to time, the window shapes are changing. Here we can see that same building. A major portion of it has been covered up as of today. And for some reason, it underwent a lot of changes, and they had put arched windows in at one point in time. You can even see up in that second story, one of the squared windows that was still there. But this is what the building does look like today. A lot of the unique features from when it was a part of the automotive industry are now covered up. They're still there, but they're covered up. We're going to go just a couple blocks south of that location. We're on the corner now of East 4th Street and South Maple. This was the site of the Wagner and Purwitz Company, and this picture was taken probably in the late teens, early 1920s. I love the old vehicles. You can see the old gas pump that's sitting way on the far left-hand side. This building has taken on a lot of different things over time, and we're going to just look at a few of them. Here we have in the 1920s, it's still Wegner and Perwitz. Again, an ad from the 1921 city directory. I love the picture. This was Marshfield's bus line, believe it or not, or I should say one of their first buses. It's just really a cool picture. And if you notice those back tires, this was probably taken in the wintertime because you can see that they still have the chains on the back tires for traction. Again, Wegner Perwitz, and then probably a little bit later in the 1920s. And they did have that dealership until at least 1933 when they did sell it. Here we have a picture of Andy Eckes in front with one of the cars that they have for sale. That same location, and as you notice over time, during the 1941-42 era, all of our streets did change addresses. It was Marshfield's way of kind of equalizing the size of the lots per business. And so everything was measured out. And so a lot of the previous addresses did change slightly. And here you can see that it did later become 125. It was taken over by the Wood County Motors, and you can see an ad there from 1936 from the Marshfield News Herald. It opened in November of 36 by Stanley Domock as a Dodge Plymouth Motor Sales Agency. It was still around for probably 6 years when it closed in the spring of 1942. At that point in time, Hughes Brothers service took over. And you can see an ad there from 1942 when Hughes Brothers service is now open for business. Again, even though the city had renamed and given it new addresses, many times some of the businesses still wanted to hang on to that. So people still kept calling this 111 East 4th Street. Okay, so here we have Hughes Brothers. What happens next? Russell Motors takes over, and he and his brother took ownership of the Hughes Brothers service in 1951. This picture here was taken in 1953, and if I remember right, this was a promotional thing with Dogwood and whatever his name and his wife and the kids in the back. And you can see their dogs across the back seat of the other car. But this was a promotional picture that had been taken at Russell's. Here we are a couple years later. Russell's has sold it in 1953, and this picture was taken about 1955, and it is now Ross Motor Sales. So you can see the building, even though they're adding things to it, they're changing it slightly. The building still, for the most part, is still pretty much intact and still there. Here we have Hub City Motors in 1956. And by 1964, now this is the lot directly across the street from that building, but this was the lot for the MidState Truck. Yes, that building was MidState Truck for a period of time, and they did use the lot to the east for displaying the trucks that they had. That was their sale floor, if you want to call it that. Okay, here we have that same building. It's starting to look a little bit run down. This is about 1975. Kelly Tire moved into this location about 1973. Kelly Tire had been down on the south side of town and their dealership had burnt out. They moved into one location and then ended up here in 1973. They still maintained an office at that first place that they moved into after their fire, and that was at 1901 South Rodas. So they had the office down on the south side, but they were doing a lot of their recapping and retreading in this facility on East 4th. They left the location, or were out of that location, by June of 1978. And you can see an ad there again from the paper advertising the Pennsylvania Turnpike tires, just like what's on the front of the building. And that was from 1973. What happens to the building next? It becomes MidState Business Machines. MidState took it over, and they kind of did a nice cleanup job on it. Notice the nice trim work, brickwork around. They moved from 107 East 5th Street to this address the spring of 1981. And so this picture was taken probably about 10 years later. They sell out in July of 1988, or excuse me, 1998 to Pike Office Products. And again, down at the bottom left corner, in 1998, you can see one of the ads from the Marshfield News Herald for Pike Office Products. Pike was not there very long, maybe a year at most. Here we have creative paint and decorating. This ad was from the Marshfield News Herald, 1999 in August. They stayed at this location probably until around 2015. And then since that time, the address 11 East 4th has been home to a billiards hall, a model railroading club, Mueller Electric, Wheelie Works LLC, and a few others. Unfortunately, today it's a little lonely and sad looking. There are some businesses in there, but the half of the, I should say the right half of the building is empty at this point. They're looking for somebody to rent it. So if you're looking for a location downtown in a building that has a lot of unique history, this might be one for you. Okay, now we're going to jump directly across the street from 111 East 4th, and we're going to go to 112, 114 East 4th. Here back from the 1921 city directory, we have Paulson Brothers Automobile Exchange, and it was there for a period of time. Here we have a picture of that lot from 1955. Still notice some of the older cars sitting around. The one thing that I want you to really pay attention to is the building that has right from the archway where it says used cars, the building to the right of that. The south side of the building is the original unpainted brick, but on the east side of the building, which is the side closest to us, it has been painted white. And it has the arch window, and it has kind of that pagoda type roof. That is the part that we're going to be noticing in a lot of the pictures coming up. Here by 1960, we have an ad for Frank's Sales and Service at that location. And one of the only pictures that I had from Frank's Sales and Service was a car that they had sitting out in their lot. From that time frame. Here we're going up to April of 1973. Steely Motors, and you can see there again that pagoda type roof line. You can see the arched windows. You're looking at it now from the corner looking to the southwest. And the one unique thing about Steely, as I was doing some research, Steely Motors is a Volkswagen dealership from Wisconsin Rapids. And they actually had dealers that were taking orders and doing things for the Wisconsin Rapids address for quite a while. But it wasn't until in April of 1973 that they actually moved in to this location and started selling cars as well. And you can see the ad down at the bottom from 73. They were opening on Monday, April 23rd. Again, a couple of the bays from the north side of the building. Don't miss the grand opening. And then by 1975, several years later, Steely Motors is closing. And again, it talks about the dealership just wasn't quite being profitable enough, and that's why they closed it here. They did mention in their ad that all of the service attendants and employees were transferred down to the Wisconsin Rapids address. So nobody lost their jobs when that happened. Here we still have that location. Notice that the bays, the 3 bays that were facing the north, have now all been filled in. They are no longer bays. This is now Associated Sales and Leasing in 1989. And they moved to their new location up on the north end. And again, we did show you a picture of that building in the last presentation. But they moved in October of 1989. So this picture was taken just a few months before they moved up to the north side. Today, the location is still there. Again, you can see that the 3 bays are still filled in. You still have the little pagoda roof in the front. The arched windows are still there. And we have a mortgage company in there. It's been a bank for a credit union. It's been a lot of different things over the years. But it is still, being used as of today. Now we're going to go that same intersection. Instead of going anywhere else, we're just going to go directly across the street to the east. And here is Don's Standard. Now, for those of you that know my family, this was my father-in-law's station, and it was originally built by Standard Oil back in 1925. And for many years, as the notes say there, it was managed by William Juno. There was a new stall that was added about 1946 when it was managed by Juno's son-in-law, Ken Blackwood. The station closed in 1954. And that is at the point when Don Schnitzler, my father-in-law, reopened it, who purchased the station from Standard Oil in 1960. I want you to take a close look at the curved windows and the 1 bay, because today it doesn't look like that. They added 2 more stalls in 1967, way on the far east side. So back where that white van is sitting, there's actually around the corner behind that are 2 doors that come in from the east side. The original bay is still there on the north side. And then in 1988, 2 more stalls were added on the west end, where the red vehicle and the dark colored car are on the right-hand side here. 1967, there was a Uhaul business that was added, and the lot across the street that was used for MidState Truck service now had U-Hauls in it as part of the business. After Don retired, his sons Gary and Rob have taken over the business. The former U-Haul lot has now been changed into their used car lot. So again, we have Don's Automotive Standard or Automotive Center. It is no longer a Standard station. And it is still open for business. We're going to travel a little farther south now on Central Avenue. We're going to go to the Dodge Garage. This was located at 428 South Central Avenue in the 1920s. Notice the one thing I like about this building are the two upper bays, the bay window areas. You can also see right behind the car that's sitting on the left-hand side, you can see the bay area where they could drive in and do service. And this is what the building looks like today. It is the home for Automotive. We're going to go just about a block south of there on the opposite side of the street. We're over on the east side of Central Avenue now. And here in front, we have a whole bunch of children from Washington School that was located in that 600 block on East Central, or on South Central, but on the east side. But in the background, you can see Miller's Cities Service. And this picture was taken in the early 1950s. Again, the students are there. It operated as Miller's City Service from May 1941 to about March of 1955. Again, this building has taken on a lot of different faces over time. 1955, Bob Haas purchased it and changed the name to Bob's City Service. Again, here you can see one of his ads from 1965 in the Marshfield News Herald. And he continued to manage that station probably until early in 1967 when Johnny Ertl took over the business in June. Here we have Johnny's Citgo service. I believe this is probably still a picture from maybe just a little bit before that when it was still city service yet. They did change the name to Johnny's Conoco, and Ertl did sell his business to a man from Iowa. The last day for his business was in July of 1987. Ertl worked at that station for 20 years, and he owned it the last 11 before he closed it in 1987. Here we are in 2002. It is now the Ace Muffler Specialists. The building that you can see on the left-hand side where the bays are, that is not a portion of that station. That is actually a part of the Baltic car wash. So just to make sure that you're not assuming that that's part of their business. At this point in time, Ace Muffler Specialist was owned by Denny Matthey, and he opened his doors in 1987 and closed them in 1998. The business sat for a little while. It reopened as Mark's Auto Center, Ace Muffler, in May of 2011. And there you can see an ad that ran in the Marshfield News Herald. They weren't open very long because it closed several months later, shortly after July of 2011. And this is what it looks like today. It is now home for the Marshfield Public Transit for our motor cabs, vans that come and pick people up from around town and take them wherever they need to go. And again, the business or the building has been spruced up a little bit, which is always nice to see when people do take care of their businesses and keep them looking good. We're going to go down now to 14th Street. We're still actually on Central Avenue. This is on the east side of South Central. This was the construction that was taking place for Wayne Cadillac Olds. The construction started in 1958, and the business actually opened in February of 1959. Notice that shape of the roof. It's got that little bit of a curve to it. And let's see here. And here you can see that you can still see that same point or curve to it. By 1960, it was taken over by Crown Olds Cadillac, or this picture, I should say, was from 1960. The new owners assumed control in September. It sold out to a corporation headed by John Damon and Paul Felker. Again, that Felker name has been in the automotive industry around Marshfield for a long time, so the name was well known. Those two new owners took that business over in 1960. Damon had been actually the general manager when it was Wayne Cadillac for over a year. And Felker is a Marshfield native and was president of the Lloyd L. Felker Company here. Here you can see the business. Here we have a picture with Gene Bender. That name showed up before as being, I believe it was with Crown Olds when they were up on the north side. This picture was from the early 1960s before they moved up to the north. Here we have 1962. There are some closeout prices, so I have a feeling they're probably getting ready to move. Yep, and by later that year, Badger Tire or State Tire Center is in it. You can still see that same roof line, so we know it's the same building. This is a picture taken from the News Herald, so I apologize. It's not a real good quality, but again, it's better than no picture at all. Gene's Furniture actually moved into this location. He had had a fire down on South 13, and so he moved in. And today it is still Gene's Furniture. And I'm going to go back for just a second. You can see here that 1978 Gene's Furniture is actually had their location burnt. And so they have been in this location since 1978. It was supposed to have been a temporary location for them, and they ended up staying there. So again, this is across the street to the north, taking a picture of Gene's Furniture as it looks today. Across the street, just a little bit to the south at 1502 South Central, we have in 1970, the Baltic Bread and Butter Shop. It was built in the middle of the 1960s. Today, it does not look like that. It does not have the 76 sign on it. It is now carrying a BP logo. The convenience store and for the station is located in the building on the back side there, but the convenience store is on the left-hand side, and then usually there is some type of a restaurant. It's been Subway, it's been a lot of different things over the time, but there's usually some type of a food place that customers can go in and get a quick bite to eat, or a bag of food to grab and go type thing from that location. Again, just a little bit farther south, but now we're going back to the east side of the street. This was taken between the mid and late 1950s. I know the quality is very poor, but it is Felker Motors. And you can see here's from the late 1950s, you can still see that same roof line. And now you can see that they do have the clock tower added to it with Felkers listed. Notice the size of the location here. It's the one building. And the reason I really want to draw attention to that is because over time, this place has grown. You can see they've got more bays added now in the 1960s over on the north side of the building. Their car lot is in front of their lot. Again, you can see some of their lot when there isn't snow on the ground. This was from the mid-60s, 1964. This one was from the late 1970s. And here we're at their lot, but we are looking, oh, let me see here. We are looking to the northwest from this vantage point. And have expanded a lot at this point. This is one of the lots, which was actually another business down the street that they took over, that they've put cars into. So their original building is back farther. 2003, here it is now V&H, and it has changed from just the used cars also to the heavy truck division. And this is about the time frame or shortly after is when V&H cars move up to the north side where we started our presentation today. This is still not the end of that facility. Here we have the building that we just looked at on the left-hand side. It is now a portion of the complex for iState Truck Center. And a little bit down the street to the south, you can see some of the trucks. They have built up quite a few different buildings for servicing these large trucks, putting on the equipment that you can see on some of these trucks. We're going to go, excuse me, now to an address 1601 South Central. It was Marshfield Radiator Company and the Standard Super Service. And here you can see an ad from back in, well, the notice actually was from 10 years before 1960. It ran in the 1960 paper, but you can see 10 years earlier. It says the new Marshfield Radiator Company and Standard Super Service operated by Eddie Madison was formally open for business today in a new building at the corner of Rhodes Avenue and Summit Street. And so one of the things here we have one of the original Marshfield Radiator trucks. And you can see in the background Southtown Foods, which would have been located on the west side of Central Avenue. And then right along, and here in this picture, you can see Bob Schiffrel and Ed Madison. This was taken about 1964. And then also about that same time frame in 1964, this was a quick shot of Tom Netzers Standard Service, which was also next in that business. This is what that particular site looks like today. It has been taken over by the iState Truck Center or complex, as you may. You can see some of the different trucks in the foreground, part of their sales floor, but the large building on the right-hand side back here is where they do a lot of their assembling of the apparatus and the different things on the trucks. We are going to go across the street. We're going to go back in time a little bit here, 1950s. This was a little garage, Art's garage, actually, Art Schmidt's garage at 1702 South Rhodes. Now, the address here, again, Marshfield has changed street names, especially down in that southern part of town. It was South Central, it's been South Rhodes. So depending on the time frame, the numbers after 1941, 42 have stayed the same, but the name of the street has sometimes changed. But anyway, this is Art Schmidt's garage in the 1950s. Oh, and here it is with one of the little wrecks that he happened to pull into a station. This was 1955. I always thought this vehicle was an interesting thing. I would be scared to death if I was coming up behind it because I wouldn't know if it was going in front of me or coming towards me or whatever, but this was their double front car that they did have sitting out. It was basically a showpiece and it was an eye catcher as people came into town from the south side. Also, again, a little history. Notice on the right-hand side behind the lot is our A&W Wripper Stand that used to be here. It was a drive-in. You could see the canopy there that the cars would roll up to. This was Art's garage in 2002, a little bit more modernized. And this is what it looks like today, still there. And again, looking quite nice. We're going to move gears just a little bit. We're going to move off of Central or off of Rodis. We're going to move over to Maple. This is a business from back in the 1950s. And the reason I wanted to show this particular business to you is not only did it not stay around long, but the building was kind of consumed by another business. Here we have in 1960s what it looked like. But that whole area in front of it or to, okay, you're kind of looking to the north here, or I should say northeast. But all of that land that is to the south of that building has now been taken over by Wheeler Chevrolet. And they actually also purchased that building from Kleins. So that was part of where they did some of their first work. They built a new building for their used car dealership. It has changed over time. This was from 1965. And again, notice here, Maple Avenue also had a different name. Many people called it Richfield Avenue. Here we have progression into 2002. This is after they built their new showroom. And you can see they've got Chevrolet, Pontiacs, Oldsmobile, Cadillacs for sale. Here we have the new body shop that was built in 2010. Again, another new showroom in December of 2012. And again, these are side by side. So here you have what it looks like today. And actually in the picture where you can see the car dealership on with a blue front on the left-hand side, in that car lot is probably the area where Kleins Leasing building used to sit. It's no longer there. And then we have the service area for the cars. And then you can go down just a little bit past the end of the building and there's a small break, and then we have the auto body shop that Wheeler's also has. But that's what their facility looks like today. We're going to go just a little bit farther south down on Highway 13 to 10820 South Highway 13. It was also at one time known as 3103 South Central Avenue, to a place called Trax Auto Repair. And this picture was taken back in the 1980s. You know what? It hasn't changed that much. And yes, they still do some work there, I believe. They've got their sign out in front, and this is what it looks like today. Now, for those of you who are familiar with Marshfield or who have been here in the past few years, we've added some roundabouts to the south side of town. If we go a little bit farther south from where Trax, where we go past what used to be Figgy's, it's now Jameson, I believe. And then there's some other businesses. We have a furniture company, and we go up over the hill and we hit the first roundabout. Excuse me. In the southeast corner of that roundabout, we have what would have been the former Teapot Dome. It was also known as Harney's Corners for any of those of you that remember. Here's a photo of it way back in 1937. Not a very big place. I believe the building that's over on the left-hand side was their house. You can actually see their laundry in the back. But the one thing that I want you to pay attention to in this photograph is the building on the left-hand side. Take a note of the shape of it, where the windows are, and you can see that one door that's facing the north. And then their garage was over to the west of the house. We're gonna go just a little bit through time. We're gonna go up into the 1950s. That building that you saw that was their house is still on the left-hand side, but there is now a new Shell station built just to the northwest of that house. Where that one door was located, they now have a little enclosure built around it with a door that comes out to the north, so that obviously they can easily go from the house to the station. Here we have that same house, but we now have the auto stops that's there. Again, the shape of it has changed, the colors have changed, but I mean, the building itself is pretty much still there. It just has a new facelift at this point in time, and this was back from the 1980s. Oops, there we go. And this is what it looks like today. Sorry about that. It is now a Marathon gas station. Again, spruced up, nice and pretty, with the large service area out in front for the pumps. Okay, we are almost done, but I have a couple locations I want to hit up over on the west side and just a few on the east side. So we're going to travel over to the west side of Marshfield right now. We're going to start at a location 1105 West Arnold. And it is not West Arnold anymore. It is now West Veterans. But that was the location of Ron's Auto Body and Sales. And here you can see that we have an ad for it from 1988. But he actually started his business probably about 10 years before that when he added a garage to that specific location. By the 1990s, Schmidt's Auto Sales was located there, and you can see Schmidt's. We're probably looking at this point because that's kind of on a curve, so it's kind of hard to get the gist, but we're probably looking to the east at this point. And I went back to take a picture of it today, and the lot is empty. Schmidt's sign is still there. There was a gentleman doing some work in the back in one of the garage units, but I have a feeling that the business for the most part has been closed. Just a little bit to the north, we have a place called Class E Auto. This photo was taken in 2002. Again, you notice that we now have the address of West Veterans Parkway. This building hasn't changed much, but today when I went back, or within the last few weeks that I went back, they've redone their roof and they've added shutters and again, kind of spruced the building up. But again, it is still Class E Auto. The building that's directly to the north of it, and you can just see a little bit of that building off on the left-hand side. We're going to go to that one next. That used to be Badgerland Auto Used Cars, and this is a photo from back in 2002. It has changed, and it is now Premier Auto. And again, they've dressed up their building very nicely, which is always nice to see in town. And Badgerland, who had been there, moved a little bit farther out. We're going to be seeing them in just a minute. We're still going to the north, even though we're at West Arnold, but we are actually traveling to the north. This is 2327 West Arnold Street. At this point in time in 1997, And again, you can see the change in the address to West Veterans Parkway. But in 1997, it was the Senex convenience store and gas station. Just a little personal story here. I remember going to this place when it was a truck stop, probably in the late 70s. And they had a little restaurant in there. You can actually see that, yep, this had the A&W in it, but at that point in time, it was a truck stop, not an A&W, and they did have a cafe in there. For those of us night owls that were going from place to place in the evening, trying to find things to do, we'd usually end up there probably around 2 o'clock in the morning when the bars closed, and would get something to eat. It has changed a little bit. 2002, it's still Senex. Does not have the A&W there. I even remember taking our family out there and having dinner on Sundays sometimes at the A&W. But here is just the convenience store and the gas station. When I went back out there to see what the location looks like today, all of the service areas, the pumps and everything are gone. The building is still there, and it is now home to Provision Partners. A little bit different look to the building, but again, still being very used and very usable. Here we have Badgerland. Remember I said we were going to talk about them again. They moved just a little bit farther to the north, probably, less than a mile, maybe about a mile. But this was the building that they put up, and were in it around 2003. And they are still there today. Again, they've spruced up their building, a new paint job, looks very nice. And we've got a couple spots that we're going to hit over on the east side, and then I think we're going to call it an end for tonight. So let's go over to the east side of Marshfield. Here is Jim's Auto Repair. Now, Jim's Auto Repair is right next to the railroad tracks. You can actually see Chicago Northwestern box cars in the back on the right-hand side. So it literally is right along next to the railroad tracks. For what the landscape today is, if you remember last month when I was showing one of the locations we were doing the underpass, well, this is just to the east of that underpass for Peach Street. And you have to kind of go down a road and kind of around the corner to get to it. It's not a straight shot off of Peach. But this is Jim's Auto back in the 1980s. Here we have Jim and Scott Franklin, who owned the business. And this is what it looks like today. Pretty much the same. They spruced it up, but it does look very nice, and they are still in business. The last business that I'm going to be sharing with you tonight is MidState Truck. And yes, remember MidState Truck was on East 4th Street at one point in time. They had their place for their trucks across from Don Standard in that parking lot. Well, they moved out to East 29th. This is the building that they moved into. This was a snippet from the Marshfield, or from the Hub City Times, I should say, from Marshfield in 2015, when they were celebrating their 50 years of being in business. You can see all the different types of trucks that they're carrying. Some of them are on their sign there. And today when I went out to take a picture of the complex, in order to get the signage, you only see a few of the buildings on the right-hand side. There are more in their complex, and it does go quite far back behind what you can see there. So again, they have expanded a lot. That brings me to the end of my talk. We are right at about an hour here tonight. I want to thank everybody for watching and your interest in the Marshfield automotive industry of buildings that have changed over time. And I want to mention to you that the recordings of this and other Marshfield presentations are going to be available for viewing on the Northwood County Historical Society's YouTube channel. All you have to do is go to youtube.com and then search for the Northwood County Historical Society. And then once they are put on that channel, you'll be able to view them as well. And I think Bethany will also be able to share with you how you might be able to get to them from the library's page as well. And again, if anybody has any additions or corrections, and I did have several people that contacted me after the last presentation, I want to thank everybody for sharing additional pictures and things with me. I'm always looking for more things that we can save and make available for others to view. It's a part of saving Marshfield's history. So with that, there's my email, my phone number. Bethany, thank you so much for having me. And I don't know if there's going to be any questions, but I'm ready.
All right, so far I haven't seen any questions come through, so I'm going to give everyone an opportunity if they have any questions to type those into the chat right now or into the Q&A. At this point, whichever place is easier for you, just go ahead and drop them in. I do have a comment from Kim Krieger that said, "Great presentation, Vicki."
Thank you, Kim.
With regards to accessing the library's saved files for this program and past programs, it's a similar situation to how Vicki was explaining to find the videos for the historic preservation. I believe that's the one that it is, right?
Northwood County Historical Society.
Society, okay. It's similar for us. We're working on, I started to talk, so she came out.
Hi, Bailey.
We're trying to work on getting it so that we have an actual URL that's easy to remember, but right now it's just a bunch of gibberish. So if you go to YouTube and you search for it, you can find them. Additionally, if you are very curious and you're having issues finding it, you need it a little bit easier, you can always send an email to me, bpearson@marshfieldlibrary.org, or just send it to the information desk or whatever. They'll get it to the right place, or we'll figure it out for you. So if you would like to see those and you're having issues finding them, just let us know. We'll get you hooked up. I'm not seeing any other questions, so I'm just going to wait another moment or so in case we have a couple more come in. But thank you so much to everybody for joining us this evening, and thank you so much for an excellent second half to your program, Vicki. I really enjoyed the tour across the history of Marshfield, focusing on all of our automotive businesses. It's like you've said, there have been quite a few, and there still are quite a few. So it's definitely a lot of information to share. And
I have to admit that I have not hit all of them. Every day I find another one here or there that was only up for a short period of time or was in a location that we just didn't think about looking. So yes, I will admit we have not covered all of them. We tried to get most of them. But again, that's why if anybody has additions or things that they would like to have added someplace down the road, or at least copies of things that we can make and add to the collection so that when people do look for more information, it's in with that material. So again, feel free to contact me either by my email or by my phone. If you forget that, contact Bethany at the library. They'll know how to get a hold of me.
All right, I haven't seen any questions come through, so I am going to go ahead and call it a complete program. If you think of any questions, you know how to reach both of us, so you can go ahead and send them our way. And thank you again. Have a great evening.
Thank you, everybody.